Here with Mike with Tuesday Talks and Tips with Mike and, well, Freddie, his sidekick. Okay, here we go. Take it away.
Freddie's my drama coach, but he hasn't quite got the hang of being out of the picture. Today we're going to talk about horror comedy, a genre that will not die. It's very popular. Horror movies in general are very popular. They may be the most popular genre there is because they're cheap to film and people go see them no matter how bad they are. And if you Google shark movies, you'll be overwhelmed. There are dozens and dozens of them. And the shark movie carries its own horror theme, and a lot of them are horror comedy, like Sharknado. I actually watched a Sharknado. It was ridiculous. It wasn't scary, it wasn't funny, but there it was. And so I watched it. There's another one called Sharkula, which is what happens when Count Dracula falls beneath the ocean and bites a shark who becomes infected with the Count's bloodlust. But those are movies that I've heard about and I haven't seen, except for Sharknado, which I heartily don't recommend. But some of the ones that I have seen, some work better than others. I found out that American Psycho, based on the novel by Bret Easton Ellis, is called a horror comedy. It stars Christian Bale famously as the American Psycho. And it's actually an interesting movie because it's based on a thoughtful book, whereas most are not. Most are based on elevator pitch. What if Dracula fell in the sea and bit a shark? But American Psycho is an outlier. Very few horror comedies are either funny or scary. You have to go either way. Because those of us who love horror, we want to be scared. We honestly want to be scared. Now, personally, I don't go for slasher films. My barometer for a scary movie is the cold touch of the supernatural on my spine, where I believe that there's something going on that's malevolent, beyond our vision, that I don't understand. A couple of movies that do that are The Changeling, starring George C. Scott, which is a masterpiece, and the original Exorcist. That really scared the shit out of me. And I'm sure it scared you too. A couple of others I want to mention is The Menu, which I saw recently. The Menu is fresh and it's entertaining because it's a completely original concept. It's about a bunch of swells who were invited to a private island owned by a world-famous chef to experience his ultimate meal. And when he gets them there, the presentation, he comes out, the chef, and announces that the dinner will be served stage by stage in stages, and each presentation will be accompanied by an explanation. And one of the explanations is he has one of his sous chefs come out and stand there, and the chef, who's played by Ray Fine, by the way, the great Ray Fine, questions him about his culinary experience, and it seems that the sous chef goofed. He made a wrong ingredient, and so Ray Fine says, and what are we going to do about this? And the sous chef pulls a pistol from behind his back and shoots himself in the head. And then you know that you're in for a wild ride, a horror comedy where there are wry grins. You're not going to laugh out loud at any of this, but it's interesting and it holds your interest. And one of the reasons is it stars Anya Taylor-Joy as the only survivor of the movie. And I'm not going to tell you how she survives, but it's ingenious. So that's about the only horror comedy I can recommend. I recently watched Violent Night, wherein Santa Claus comes down the chimney of a wealthy family that's being held hostage by terrorists. And it doesn't work. I don't think it works because Santa Claus doesn't really come across as an ex-CIA assassin. They don't say that, but he has mad skills as he dispatches the criminals one by one. Another one that was bitterly disappointing to me was Cocaine Bear, because it's based on a true story.
Did you watch that? You watched that one?
I watched it. It's about a bear.
Okay, he's blocking the view, sorry.
It's about a bear that inadvertently snorts a package of cocaine dropped from an airplane and then goes on a killing spree.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the stuff that would have made a terrific, really scary horror movie if they did it straight.
Yeah.
But they don't do it straight. They cut away for some good old boy rednecks. We're talking about how they're going to get the bear, and they make all sorts of bad jokes. And they cut to the bear, and the bear's doing funny stuff. Didn't work. Waste of time. Gremlins. I saw Gremlins when it came
I saw
out.
that one.
Yeah, even Anna's seen that one. Were you scared?
No.
No. See, well, I wasn't scared and I wasn't amused, but it may have been good for smaller children. Bubba Hotep, based on the novel by John Lansdale. And this is a unique concept. It's that JFK never died. He changed his race and his identity and went to live in a nursing home where he meets Elvis, who changed his identity and also went to live in the nursing home. And Elvis is played by Bruce Campbell. And right there, that's going to hook in a lot of people. I watched it. It was amusing. It gave me wry smiles, mostly because the concept is completely off the wall. It's not the traditional stuff that we expect. When you go to a horror movie, when you think horror, you think vampires, werewolves, mummies, and ghosts. And that's about it. But those are a couple of movies that I tell you, why the horror doesn't work and why it does. But I have to say, it wasn't really horrifying. Neither Cocaine Bear nor Bubba Hotep really scared me. You're not scared in any of those scenes. If you're looking for horror comedy, the best place to go is the Dan Shamble novels by Kevin J. Anderson about a dead detective. They're very funny. They're very droll. They're not going to scare you either. When it comes to true scares, and I've said this before, comics are the worst medium there is. The best mediums are novels and film. And the reason they are is that in a novel, a skilled author can put you in a scene that you invest in totally. I'm talking about suspension of disbelief. And you buy that scene and you're in that world. And when you're in that world, he can deliver the scares. And movies have a tremendous advantage over every other medium, except for novels, because it engages the imagination. But movies control the pacing, the lighting, and most important of all, the sound. You don't really understand how important sound is to a good horror movie until you experience it. And again, I'm thinking of The Exorcist, but also The Haunting, based on Shirley Jackson's novel, the first one that's in black and white. Absolutely terrifying movie. There's not a drop of blood in it, but the sounds will have you leaping out of your seat. So that's horror comedy. It's wildly popular. It will remain wildly popular. And like everything else, only 10% of them are any good.
Okay, wonderful. Now you were recently at a Comic-Con in, where were you, Fort Myers?
Fort Myers, Florida.
Yeah,
That's right.
How was that?
It was great. I sat to a professional wrestler who went by the name of Tugboat, sweet guy. He's 6'8", he weighed 380 pounds, and he had size 18 shoes.
Wow.
And while I was there, the event organizer also staged a professional wrestling match out in the patio, which was a complete surprise to me until I walked by it and saw this ring was set up and two big sweaty guys throwing each other around the ring and in front of a crowd of several hundred.
Wow. Well, that's unique.
It was.
Right. Any fun news coming up?
Florida Man versus Hogzilla is funding now. Go to baroncomics.com, take a look at the trailer. It will enthrall you, it will delight you, and the book will make you laugh out loud, guaranteed. Also, Wolfpack just announced my 10th biker novel, Seventh Son, which co-features Chuck Dixon's character, Levon Cade.
And what is that story about? Just a synopsis.
A man hires Josh Pratt to investigate the murder of his brother 10 years ago at Summerfest, which is a festival in Milwaukee that takes place every summer. And when Josh investigates, he finds out that it has to do with a feud dating back to the Civil War.
Ah, fun. Oh, and also a little summary of the Hoxella Florida Man comic book too. What is that about?
Well, as you can guess, Gary is hired to get rid of a 1,000-pound feral hog that's been running amok in these upscale housing districts, deliberately tearing down these million-dollar houses. But there's a lot more to it than that. It starts with a shady character hiring Gary to fly to Mexico City, pick up 100 red-kneed tarantulas and smuggle them back into the country. And Gary says, well, what if the tarantulas get loose? And his patron says, don't worry. My agent will give you a suitcase at the airport. The suitcase is sealed. You will check it through. The tarantulas cannot possibly get out of the suitcase.
Oh, yeah. Right. I can see that coming. Okay. All right. Well, great. So thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Appreciate positive comments. Be nice, people. Subscribe, like, and share with other people. Thanks so much for listening.